Go. Welcome to World Futures Day Young Voices 2025. This session is brought to you by Teach the Future, a global nonprofit dedicating to embracing futures literacy in education worldwide. World Futures Day is a partnership with the Millennium Project. And right now, we all have been a part of a 24-hour global conversation about our futures, creating a space where all generations, especially young voices, can share their visions, concerns, and action-driven projects towards a better future, towards a better tomorrow. This will be streamed on YouTube later, so let's make this conversation count. Share your thoughts in the chat box, join the global discussion, and you can also use hashtag WFDYV on your socials. So, facilitators, you can now take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bella Brown. I am a senior in Chicago. I am the co-founder and president of Living Outside, which is a nonprofit organization aimed at destigmatizing homelessness. I will obviously expand on that, but I'd love to just give my co-facilitator a chance to introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Jade, Brannon, and today I'm going to be talking about urban farming and getting to know more about that. And Bella, it's on to you.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So today I'm going to take a little bit of time just to kind of talk about the power of acknowledgement. And I think that a lot of times when we think about the future, there are incredible issues that as a society we face. And sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming where to begin, how do we start when there are so many people who are suffering. But today I really want to remind us all how important it is to take a step back and acknowledge someone else's humanity, their personhood, their dignity, and that is really what I co-founded my organization on, and that is really what I hope to bring to you guys today is tools to be able to do that and make that your first step towards any issue that you are passionate about, and any issue that you really want to take a chance to solve. So, first of all, living outside. As I mentioned, we aim to destigmatize homelessness, and the way we do this is we create care bags full of everyday supplies and small luxuries, as requested by the recipients, whether that is hygiene kits, hats, gloves, granola bars, food, stamped postcards, and pens. And when we create these care bags, we really encourage people who are creating the care bags, our volunteers, to go a step further and deliver them themselves, and specifically to unsheltered homeless people, if who are in need in their community. We like to think of the care bags as not only direct aid, but also as an opportunity for conversation and an opportunity for authentic connection. And homelessness is an issue that there is a lot of preconceived bias surrounding it. Oftentimes, we will notice internally, we might have an instinct to cross the street, to look the other way, to do something to divert our attention when we are in the presence of someone who is unsheltered and homeless. And at Living Outside, we really try to combat that hesitation by encouraging that first interaction that is really going to open the door to societal understanding and moving forward to really combat this global issue. So, what is the significance? There are 150 million people in the world right now who are facing homelessness. And it goes without saying that basic necessities need to be met. Food, water, shelter, are all human rights. And for me, I feel that it is very important to do what I can to ensure that every single person has these rights. However, as I have discussed, there is a barrier preventing society from fully helping to our full potential, and that is the fact that there is stigmatization surrounding homelessness, and there are negative perceptions that people have and misconceptions surrounding people who do not have a home. So, today, I'm going to be talking about how direct interaction can be a vehicle for stigma reduction, especially when it comes to people's comfort levels in the presence of someone who is homeless. So, I am a high schooler, but last year I did have the opportunity during my school day to conduct research. And what I decided to do was see if this practice of creating and distributing a care bag really did lead to a decrease in negative perceptions towards homelessness. So I was asking, essentially, what are the effects of creating and delivering care bags to homeless people in one's community, and what does that practice have? What effect does that practice have on the level of personal stigma that one holds towards homelessness? So there's a lot of research and data already out there that I would love to just quickly touch on. First of all, there are a lot of policies and actions that contribute to the stigmatization of homelessness. So, for example, this was a law from 2009 to 2019 in Los Angeles. This was, analyzing all of the policies in Los Angeles during that time. And this research study found that there was a 69% increase in laws criminalizing camping, a 43% increase in laws criminalizing begging, an 88% increase in laws criminalizing loitering, and a 52% increase in laws criminalizing sleeping. So, the key idea here is that Americans have kind of always had an instinctive response to visible poverty, and that has led them to create laws that restrict the visibility of people who are homeless or going through poverty in public spaces. And then, additionally, homeless people are aware of the stigmatized identity, and they have developed strategies to fight that stigmatization. So one such strategy is fictive storytelling, where they might embellish the past, fantasize the future, and kind of think about embellishing their situation, because that might help them cope with the lack of community they are receiving from others. Another strategy is distancing themselves from the word homeless. I actually did have an uncle who was homeless, and when I met him, he referred to himself as someone who lived outside, and so that is why I named the organization that. But I do think homeless kind of connotates not having a home and not having a community. And while my uncle certainly did not have a home, he had a community that really supported him and cherished him. And I think that a lot of people who are homeless do have a community and seek out a bigger community. And so I like to use the word living outside, because they are living outside, they are unsheltered, but at the same time, they do have people in their corner who will support them. And my goal is to add to that group of people who are there for them. And then the last thing is kind of strategic relations. So making themselves patron-like and going into a business, having interactions with people who are not homeless can really remind them that anything is possible in terms of their own situation and what they're hoping to do if they have been homeless for a while and are trying to find shelter, if that is not their current situation. Having authentic relationships brings people happiness and joy, and that is really what I hope to do for everyone who is living outside. Okay, and then the last thing is quality of life, right? And I think that we all deserve to have a very high and joyous quality of life. Quality of life is essentially how one, subjective quality of life, which is a little bit different, is how one perceives their position in life in the context of their personal goals and expectations. So not necessarily in absolute terms, but in relative terms, is someone meeting their goals? And the key idea here is that homeless individuals struggle to preserve their own self-esteem when they are not receiving support from others, and this can lead to a lower subjective quality of life, meaning they believe less on average that they are meeting their goals and are where they hope to be as a person. So, what is the gap, right? I sought to lessen that gap with my research study, and essentially there is evidence that stigmatization exists. There is evidence that homeless people are aware of that stigmatization, but there has not been that much research yet on how to lower and lessen those stigmatization levels. And with my research study, I was really interested in confirming and seeing if this practice of creating and distributing a care bag could lessen stigmatization towards homelessness. So I had a pre-survey, which was fully quantitative, and I had 32 participants take this pre-survey, and it asked them a bunch of questions, which I will show you a bit later. And it was basically a numerical survey to kind of test where their perceptions lied in regards to homelessness. Then I brought them all in to go to an assembly line and create a care bag. I gave them 2 weeks to distribute that care bag, and then I had them take the exact same survey again to see if there was any attitudinal changes in their perceptions towards homelessness. However, this post survey did add a qualitative component where I asked them open-endedly to describe their experience, and I will be discussing that as well. So 43 people were interested in originally participating in the survey, in the study, and then about 32 ended up doing so. The first question asked them to agree or disagree with the statement. So they could either strongly disagree, slightly agree, or strongly agree. That, for example, I think there were about 15 of these prompts, but some examples were homeless people live difficult lives and homeless people scare me. Then, in the second part of the survey, they were asked the same thing with the strongly, slightly, and so forth. And they were asked about their comfort level. So, when a homeless person asks me for money, I feel strongly uncomfortable, slightly comfortable, strongly comfortable. When a homeless person walks into an establishment, I feel. And then the third question asked them to check off any adjectives that they felt applied to, in general, in their head, someone who was homeless. Whether that was deserving, destructive, there were positive, negative, and neutral adjectives for them to check off. And then the final question, question 4, was only added onto the post survey, and it asked them to simply reflect on the experience of creating and distributing a care bag with as much detail as possible. So this is what the assembly line looked like. Obviously, it was a pretty condensed assembly line because this was a research study. But there was a granola bar, a bag of chips, an applesauce pouch, a mini hygiene kit, a bottle of water, and then stamped postcards and pens. So this slide has a lot of numbers, and I'm going to go through a lot of numbers really quickly. But this is what it's important to think about here. So the prompt is on the left side of the screen. Homeless people live difficult lives, are easy to identify through appearance, are responsible, are inconvenient, so forth. And then these scores were standardized essentially. So a 1 would be strongly disagree, a 2 would be mildly disagree, a 3 would be mildly agree, and so forth. And so you can see the scores, then you can see the average difference in those scores. So what was the change? You can also see the standard deviation. And then to run an inferential statistical analysis test, I collected t-values and p-values. So the questions highlighted in gray are the questions that did show statistically significant results, which essentially means we can be fairly certain, we can be 95% confident that this change in response was not due to chance and can be attributed to the practice of creating and distributing a care bag. So, homeless people make me sad. On average, before, 3.219 was the score, and then afterwards, 3.06 was the score. And what that means is there was a statistically significant increase in people who felt sad towards homeless people after doing this activity. And I think one thing to say about that is I do believe that empathy is the first step to creating solutions. And I think that obviously sadness is a really kind of hard feeling to grapple with, but at the same time, I think that is a step that is kind of inevitable in coming to help someone. And then again, here are some other questions that were statistically significant. Walking past a homeless person asking them for money, sleeping on the street, and saying hello to someone all had statistically significant increases in positive responses toward those questions. Oops. 1 second. Okay, apologies. I accidentally closed my screen. So here were the adjectives, the question number 3. So the blue is before how many people checked it off, and then, or the percentage of people who checked it off, and then afterwards is afterwards the percentage of people who checked it off. So you can see that these were positive adjectives, and that about, let's say, 12 adjectives here had an increase in the number of people who checked them off after they handed out the care bags. Similarly, the blue is before, the red is after. These were all adjectives that were stigmatizing or negative, and they decreased after the practice. So the only outliers in the studies that examples of positive adjectives that decreased and stigmatizing adjectives that increased, there were 5 outliers. And then in terms of qualitative responses, I'm not going to go through all of these, but here are just some positive responses that people had to the open-ended question. 100% would do it again. It was very easy. It helped me appreciate all I had been given, helped me overcome certain preconceived notions about people without a home. And then these were the only two negative qualitative responses that I received, and both of them are pretty nuanced. So they enjoyed creating and distributing the care bags, but it felt like a band-aid on a wound. And then it was a nice thing to do, but it felt a little bit patronizing for this person. So, with my research, and I think this is really the beginning, this was a very small scale study, and I think that in my future, I would love to replicate it on a larger scale. But I think this really is opening up the conversation and really reinforces what this researcher, Nabels Lee, did find that virtually any kind of exposure to homelessness has been found to erode stereotypes and render attitudes more positive. And that is really what we are hoping to do at Living Outside is use the care bags as a type of exposure that can really help people who are experiencing homelessness and also lessen some of these preconceived narratives. So, what are the implications of this? Encouraging students, encouraging anyone really to create and distribute more care bags can diminish the negative perceptions of homeless people. And they can also, diminishing these perceptions can directly help homeless people in our communities. So, what is next? As I said, I am the co founder and president of Living Outside. And at Living Outside, we distribute these care bags, and we have over 400 volunteers who have created and distributed care bags with us. And it is so exciting to me because when my sister and I started this, what we were really hoping to do was spread an idea and spread a perspective of instead of simply volunteering for a couple hours, donating money, and then not necessarily interacting with the people we hope to serve, we really tried to reframe that and say the most important part of advocacy and of changing the world and of making positive change is really interacting with the people that we hope to positively impact. And I think that that is the first step to any issue that we are facing. It is really an incredibly kind of underestimated step that has the power to change our perspectives, right? And make sure that we are being as effective as we possibly could be, making the most positive change that we can, and really making sure that we are always advocates and we are always microphones for those who are unheard and those who are underserved, and not necessarily putting our own bias and our own opinions on top of those who are in need of our assistance. Purpose of Living Outside, I've talked about this different approach to combating the fundamental issue of homelessness. Not only do we give direct aid to people in need, but we really try to destigmatize homelessness, especially amongst youth and teens. We've distributed over 4,000 care bags to date. We've raised over $5,000, and we have 19 chapters around the world where we have given at all 19 of those youth founders a grant so that they can create and distribute their own bags in their own communities and really bring this idea to the people around them. If you are interested, we would love for you to hand out a bag. We would love for you to start your own chapter, and I'd be happy to talk with any of you or anyone watching a recording of this, how you can really get involved and bring this practice to your own community. So now I believe I will take questions at the end, if I'm not mistaken. So that is a little bit about me, but I believe I'm turning this over to my co-facilitator.
Okay, now let me get my slides on and we'll get started. Okay. Okay, Mom.
Hi, everyone. Beautiful evening to everybody. My name is Renee Stewart, and we're super excited to be here tonight to talk to you guys about regenerative urban farming techniques. I am gonna tap in with you guys, but I have like a whole house full of kids that are being managed right now. So, anywho, we're super excited to be here. Bella, wonderful job. When it comes to the homelessness piece, I have a fun story for you guys as we journey through our slides tonight in regards to that and how it is relative to regenerative urban farming. So as I said, my name is Renee Stewart. I am a wife, mother of 5 children, including Jade, who is on the call tonight, my amazing eldest daughter, and I'm a founder of Grassroots Childcare Cooperative right here in East Texas, Tyler to be exact. where we focus on providing 360-degree family wrap services. In this season, we're actually focusing heavily on the farming space and educating underserved families and getting their hands into the soil because this is there's no better time to learn about regenerative agriculture and to learn how to grow your own food. So yes, without ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jade. She is going to explain to you who she is and talk to you a little bit more about our topic at hand tonight.
Okay. So, this one. Okay. So I'm gonna start on talking about myself and we'll go on the slides. So my name is Jade Brannon and I'm 13 years old and I have been a farmer for 7 years now and I am a young entrepreneur with so many businesses and everything and a leader. I'm a leader. And in 2023, I did attend one of the projects for the compost project for Teach the Future, and I placed #1 in no poverty category in the US. And now, what is regenerative agriculture? Regenerative agriculture is a convert, oh, sorry, convert, conversation, convert, conservation and rehabilitation approach to food and strengthen through the health and the vitality of the farm soil. The huh?
So back in 2020, we moved to Tyler, Texas, and we're originally from Northern California. Regenerative agriculture, Jade's actually been farming for the past 7 years on and off, and it's been very helpful due to the fact that connecting to what Bella was teaching about homelessness and stigmas with homelessness, due to the fact that when you are operating within a regenerative agriculture space, you have a healthy environment to be able to grow your own food without any excuses. And so we're going to go into a little bit more about how regenerative agriculture relates to our personhood and what that looks like in the past, present, and future.
So now the regenerative urban farming techniques of the past. Indigenous people, they had to find ways to develop farming systems that include agroforestry and a place to dry land to grow food. So, agro. Wait. Oh, so we're gonna start off by the Three Sisters, but the three common foods off of the Three Sisters were it was potatoes, beans, wild rice, squash, and corn. Those were the Three Sisters, and then we're gonna go off by the indigenous, by the agroforestry benefits and the Sweden, like everything else. But the agroforestry benefits, the benefits behind it is that it helps with improved soil health and climate change, and also carbon capture. And it's like not loading, but um, yeah. Then the agroforestry, how it works is that the landscapes, they would mix in the trees with the land to help the land to have a more of a long-term management of the plants and the whole garden that they have and the dry land. When indigenous communities, when they went to their gardens, they would see the change to their gardens. So they would know either if it was the water change or if there was something wrong with the land or anything else. But floods, droughts, and hurricanes would threaten the gardens and eliminate their food security. But that was one of the problems that they had, that they would always have throughout their gardens. But they found a way how to fix it. So now we're gonna go on to regenerative urban farming techniques in the present. So in the present, you can so whatever you find in your house that you can grow food with a very, very cheap budget, that you can find out through your house, but you can use old containers, milk cartons or water jugs, toilet paper rolls, egg cartons, or raised beds that were made out of recycled wood. By working on a cheap budget to start growing your own organic fruits and vegetables, it's a good thing to do. To start your food, so you won't have to use a lot of money, so you won't have to spend a lot, and you don't need to go out of your way to get the stuff and spend so much money to start planting. Then it can help people and give them opportunities to know where their food comes from instead of going to the store and buying fruits and vegetables that could have chemicals or just anything that they put on it that can infect your body. So it would be way better if you would plant and garden at your land or your porch or anything to start your garden. Oh, so the picture on the right, that was actually that was our first garden. No, it was our second garden that we ever did. And as you can see, there's so many things going on. We have the water jugs, we have containers, and some pots and stuff that most people gave to us and everything else. And you see some that are milk cartons or anything. That's what we started off of, and now we're growing up on them. But now, then, um, the return. Wait, are you the pictures?
See the picture. You can't see the pictures, huh? All right, we'll just.
Okay, that's some. I hate this. Okay, but regenerative urban farming techniques in the future. Regenerative urban gardening is the future. To make anything happen, you can start by starting in the house to improving outside and making a big spot in at your place, in your backyard, anywhere, and to make a better future to growing to grow and learn to approach more, and that can help a more um the pictures. Um so also, some things that you can start on growing your own food now. If you don't have things like pots or containers or anything that you're still using for your own food, you can either, if you have cups that you don't use, like red Solo cups, or like egg cartons that like you don't use and you throw them away, you can repurpose them and start making your garden and having them sprout up to transplant them and put them in a big or something so they can grow up to be whatever fruit or vegetable that you grew. And then in the future, indigenous farmers, as well as myself, should teach others to teach other people how to grow their food and to repurpose the waste for your compost. For your compost, if you repurpose the waste that from your fruits and like, say if you cut like peppers and you have the top of the pepper, you wouldn't need it um per se, and you can put it, if you don't eat it or use it, you can put it in your compost and make dirt. So that's another thing off of gardening and planting, is from your compost. You have a rich soil that is homemade, that works for your plants instead of, other things and just, whatever. But that's going on. And now we're going to go off to the conclusion.
Yeah, so in conclusion, guys, regenerative agriculture overall mitigates climate change through carbon dioxide removal from the atmosphere and sequestration. So it creates a nice, well-rounded environment, and it creates soil that has deep roots. And so, along with reduction of carbon emissions, carbon sequestration is gaining popularity in agriculture, and individuals as well as groups, excuse me, are taking action to fight climate change. You'll see a lot of individuals within the farming space and urban farming as well, um, really shifting towards the regenerative space, not wanting to use a lot of pesticides on foods, finding nice and natural ways to keep bugs away, but then also keep their environment happy, because a well-rounded environment will not be infested with bugs or have an imbalance where there's too many birds or too many bugs, and everything will actually naturally be healthy and blemish free. Also, if you do need to start your garden now instead of later in the future, nothing is stopping you, nothing's holding you back. Everybody can learn and grow. So I always encourage everybody to visit their county classes. They usually have them typically at a local college or a local county building, but I'm actually in the process of taking a master gardening program at the time. And I know these things are often available with reduction in tuition and things like that, just depending on your financial situation. Also, people can use anything in their household to grow food. A lot of the time, individuals get stuck on the aesthetic piece of growing, but you can literally grow, like Jade said earlier, with red solo cups. You can use egg cartons. You can literally use containers. You can use anything. You can use tires. And that's the essence of urban farming, is just using whatever you have around you to make your garden. And it only takes a little bit of space, but you can grow so much food to feed your whole block essentially. And that's what's required when you're in transition, when you're facing homelessness. You have to create a sustainable environment to where your food is secure, where you have food security. And that is basically all that we have right now for regenerative urban farming techniques. Go ahead, Jane.
So now, thank you guys for watching and joining. And now we're gonna go on through the Q&A with me, with Bella and I. And Bella, you can start, and Miss Lisa, we can go on from there.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we'll go off sharing video. And I just wanted to say this was a really special session for me. One, because, well, both Bella and Jade being one of our youngest youth in this whole World Futures Day. So I just want to make that announcement that Jade is one of the youngest. Yes, we are very, very delighted to be able to speak at such a young age about these topics, to be worried about the future, to be invested, to be doing something to better the future for them, for themselves, for their community garden, and then to be able to share their passion and their projects here with you all. So thanks, Jade, and thank you, Renee, for that. And Bella, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thank you for being here on your birthday, not on your birthday, but really, really close, and being able to share this project that you started as well at such a young age. And I will get to Q&As. I'm sure people have questions about how do you get started at such a young age? How do you both get involved in nonprofits, and that's what Teach the Future is here to do, is to provide this platform for you all to be able to share these passion projects and what you're doing for the future of tomorrow, while learning futures thinking tools, while this might be the first touch point that you have to learning how to be how to how to how to use these tools to reinforce your projects, to reinforce what it is that you're passionate about. So um I'll leave it to the Q&As, and if there's anyone in the audience. But I did want to make a comment. Bella, what I really appreciate about your project on homelessness, your passion and that avenue that you took, is that a lot of people, I think there's a lot of stigma and a lot of misconceptions to homelessness, uh, and for example, um, it- I, there's many examples. I think you can do a better job of explaining them, but I will say that, mental health can take a big part in how someone can become homeless. It doesn't mean that they're not trying in life or that they gave up. I think a lot of them could come from families. They have families, they have support. But when it's mixed with mental health, it's a different road. It's a different adventure that they take. So it's really it warms the heart to know that there's work being done in this field, in this sector. Okay. So I'll pause there and you can look in the chat box. We can come off, just comment if there's any comments that we have for these two young presenters today. If there's anything you want to say. Oh, we do have something in the chat box. Okay, how about I read some of them?
Well, before you do that, Lisa, I just wanted to chime in. Hi, it's Sabrina. I'm on the board of Teach the Future. My heart is so full. I'm so incredibly impressed by both of the presentations. Um, and one of the things that we always talk about is integration. And so, urban farming as a means of helping people with who may find themselves unhoused is, could really be a game changer. And so I just want to applaud and congratulate both the presenters. And I did have one question because I'm also a little bit of a fraidy cat when it comes to bugs. So, so Jade and her mom mentioned there are ways to, grow some. So I guess it's a two-part question. Like, what would you recommend? What's a good, I don't know, like vegetable or fruit that you would recommend to start with? That's pretty low maintenance in terms of starting your garden inside. And absolutely, I have a great deal of respect for bugs, particularly when they're outside of my house. And so, if you could give an example of a strategy to, obviously there's going to be bugs, but to keep them at a minimum, particularly if you're starting your garden inside of the house.
I would say the way to keep like bugs, like probably like tiny ants. Some that's what we went through. Yeah. But I would say so one thing that is very low maintenance and easy to grow, like in how to start a garden, I would say tomatoes. Any kind of tomatoes. Like well not like
Out of my house. So I don't know. That's all I know. That's all I know to say. I don't know what that means.
I do apologize. My internet was going crazy. So you were kind of broken up. Could you repeat
Oh,
that?
I'm sorry. I was just saying that the good news is that the sun comes up on the back side of my house, so I get half the day worth of sun. So because I have a little like a deck off the back of my house, so is that would that be helpful for that type of plant, like for a tomato plant? And yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely put your tomato plant on regimen. You can actually water as directed. Typically, well, just water your plant whenever it needs it. Whenever the soil appears dry, you want to fertilize your plant as directed to, just depending on your zone or region, because I don't know where you live. But I would look at the zone where you live in one. Also, fertilize your soil before planting. Regeneratively, you can kind of test and see the soil if it looks nice, dark, and rich in your hand, and it has an earthy smell to it. But if the soil is really good, you can plant your plant and then just water it whenever it's needed, as long as it's remaining healthy with the right amount of magnesium, like with Epsom salt and things like that, then you shouldn't have any ant issues. I would also lay down some diatomaceous earth if you do have an ongoing ant issue as well. That's helpful.
The
Thank you.
question was ants, right? Ants, keeping ants away.
Yes.
Okay, my mother's wisdom was cloves, like
Ah.
powdered
Cloves.
ground
Okay.
cloves. I have no idea if that's scientifically correct, but if ants invade my pantry, I used to put it on the threshold of our door to keep ants out. Also, have been known to put dishwasher liquid across the threshold of the door because they couldn't cross that either. So you could put dishwasher liquid around the base of your planter too, I think.
Thank you.
Liquid soap. But ask these young people to verify that at some point because I'm not sure. Just old wisdom. Thank you, by the way. It's good job.
Okay, and then just also to the regenerative practices, also just to be mindful that a certain percentage of whatever you grow will go to nature. It's kind of like your little offering to nature itself. So not all the plants will be, so-called infested with ants or have ants over them, but just know that they might eat one plant, but you might have like five more, just depending on how many you decide to plant and grow.
Thank you for those conversations, those insights. I hope people were taking notes. That was insightful. Thank you, Jade and Renee. I'm gonna just read off some comments in the chat box and see if there's some questions. If you want to interrupt me, you can come off mic at any time and ask the speakers. Patricia, did you come off mic? No? Okay. Let's see. Very impressed. Great job, ladies. Great presentations. I can already see the beauty of integrating them in my household. Or oh no, integrating them to help those who are unhoused. Excuse me. Congrats to both of you on your initiatives. These are really cool. What are some problems you ran into, and how did you overcome them? What would you say to other young people to motivate them to also do cool things like this? So, Bella.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And thank you to Jade and Renee as well, because I learned so much and I really appreciate you giving us all of those tips. I would say that for me, when I started handing out care bags, it was a very informal practice. My sister and I were living in Colorado at the time, and it was during the pandemic. And so a lot of shelters who were there to support homeless people had ceased operations. And so we really found a gap there that was needed. Um, and we were doing great, right? And the pandemic subsided, and we decided to see if we could kind of expand the idea. So we started telling our friends and our family about the care bags and what we were doing. And a lot of people were very excited by it, really loved the idea. And then they would kind of ask, okay, now that I've made the care bag, who do I give it to, right? Do I give it to a shelter? Do I give it to another organization? And we'd say, no, if you would like to keep it in your car, if you'd like to keep it in your work bag, your backpack, take it on a walk with you. Anytime you see anyone in need, you now have something to offer them. And in that moment, the reaction at first kind of shifted. And it was no longer, that's an amazing idea, love it. But it was, are you sure that's safe? Are you sure that's a good idea? I'm not comfortable with that. And something along those